engaged him.
Republican New York Congressman Chris Collins has been arrested on FBI charges related to a securities firm, Australian biotech company. Collins' son, Cameron, and the father of Cameron's fiancee are also charged. Joining us now by phone is Chad Pergram, Fox News Capitol Hill senior producer. Chad, what more can you tell us about these charges as we await this news conference in the noon hour?
Well, this goes back a couple of years, and Chris Collins and his staff, frankly, have had some legal issues for a while now. There was a raid in May of 2015 of his chief of staff's home in upstate New York, Christopher Grant, regarding improper fundraising activities. And then there was a very muddled release by the House Ethics Committee looking into this in October of 2017. The late Congresswoman from New York, Louise Slaughter, sent to the Office of Congressional Ethics a complaint against him. Now, that's the outside group that then refers things to the former Ethics Committee. And the Ethics Committee came back with kind of a very muddled opinion on whether or not he had done anything wrong when it came to this alleged insider trading. Now, you might remember that Louise Slaughter, she authored what's called the Stock Act. It bars insider trading, in other words, using proprietary information that members of Congress and their staff might acquire to make money on the stock market. And upon the release of that report in October 2017, I interviewed Chris Collins about this. And, of course, Louise Slaughter died earlier this year, and Chris Collins called her, quote, a despicable human being. He's accused of sharing non-public information that may have been important to investors. In that Ethics Committee complaint last year, it was alleged that he had helped Innate, that's the company, the immunotherapy company here, get access to the NIH. And there's a lot of question here about, what Chris Collins' ethics may have been. In my interview with him last year, he called Louise because she made the referral to the Ethics Committee a disgrace. He basically also, really went after her. He said, look, I always follow the ethics. And now, he has a criminal complaint against her.
All right, well, then, as two key races with Trump-backed candidates are still too close to call. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Sandra Smith.
And I'm Bill Hemmer. Good morning. The battle for Ohio's 12th congressional district could not be closer. Republican Troy Balderson leading the Democrat Danny O'Connor by less than 1 percentage point, trying to keep a red district from flipping to blue. President Trump claiming victory on Twitter. Congratulations to Troy Balderson on a great win in Ohio, a very special and important race. Both candidates late last night coming out to greet supporters. Here's what they said.
I'm honored, very honored, for the opportunity to represent the voters of the 12th Congressional District and who they have bestowed on me. I'd like to thank President Trump.
We are fighting for a better America. We went door to door. We went house to house. We made our case for change. We're going to make that case tomorrow. We're not stopping now. Tomorrow we rest, and then we keep fighting through to November.
Meanwhile, in two other high-profile primaries, the Kansas GOP gubernatorial contest is deadlocked with little daylight between Trump-endorsed candidate Chris Kobach and the incumbent governor Jeff Colyer. And in Michigan, there could be a new political star rising. John James, after a big boost from President Trump, winning the Republican Senate nomination by a country mile. We have Fox team coverage for you this morning. Mike Tobin is in the Motor City, but we begin with Dan Springer in Topeka on the cliffhanger in Kansas. Dan, what a night it was. What are things like on the ground there this morning?
Yeah, this has been unbelievably close, Sandra. The votes were still being counted late this morning because of a technical glitch in Johnson County, the biggest county in Kansas. And because of that, they were still counting as of a couple of hours ago. But when they completed that count, the leader was Chris Kobach, and he was the candidate who was endorsed by President Trump just hours before the polls opened on Tuesday. That endorsement came by tweet on Monday. And when it was done, the count at least this morning, Kobach led by a mere 191 votes. That is 1/10 of 1% of the total vote cast. That is an unofficial result until the state canvass is done, and when that's completed, there could be challenges, of course, to some of the ballots and a likely recount, so this could take a while. But for now, Secretary of State Chris Kobach is sitting on top. He is a polarizing politician, cut from the same mold as President Trump, very anti-illegal immigration, and has made some wild, unsubstantiated claims about voter fraud. Before the count was completed, he spoke to supporters last night.
I just want to ask all Republicans across the state, regardless of who the winner is, to stand together, to join. This has been a very tough scrimmage between the two sides, or between really the five sides, but I want everybody to join together regardless, stand for the principles that we all believe in, and come together quickly and effectively so that we can advance our Republican principles against the Democrat and the Independent in November.
Finishing second, at least for now, was current Republican Governor Jeff Collier. He took office in January of this year after serving 7 years as lieutenant governor under Sam Brownback, who left to take a diplomatic job in the Trump administration. Collier was ahead by 2 points in the final poll done on the race. He was clearly not happy on Monday when Trump, who won Kansas by 20 points, endorsed Kobach. Whoever ends up winning, when the dust settles, he'll take on independent businessman Greg Orman and Democratic State Senator Laura Kelly. Both are solid candidates. Kelly easily won her primary last night, and the pundits all say that she will have the best chance against Kobach because he is such a polarizing figure and he is unpopular with many Kansans. Back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you very much. Setting it up for us.
Dan, thank you. Meanwhile, in Michigan, Trump-backed Republican John James easily winning the Republican Senate primary. Faces a tough race in November, though, against a three-term Democratic senator. Live to Michigan, Mike Tobin standing by where he's been all week. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. With the president in his corner calling him a future star of the grand old party, this 37-year-old political newcomer, John James, marched to a convincing win here in Michigan. James, a former Apache pilot who served in Iraq, made his victory speech in the warehouse of the family business he's been running since 2012. James told his supporters that he is not going to advocate a black message or a white message, but a Michigan message. And he turned his guns on the big upcoming fight, Democratic Senator Debbie Stabenow, about whom he said her time is up.
Debbie Stabenow has been living on the taxpayer dime for 43 years with nothing to show for it. Well, I'll tell you what, she's in for the fight of her life in this fall.
Now, Stabenow is the first woman elected to the U.S. Senate in Michigan. She has easily fended off challenges in the past. The polls thus far give her an advantage, and she's got more money than James. Political experts at the University of Michigan and Michigan State predict agriculture, manufacturing, and female voters will show up for Stabenow. James has President Trump in his corner, but the endorsement might not mean as much in the general election. Trump did win Michigan, but the margin was thin. Bill?
Thank you, Mike. Mike Tobin, good work there this week.
All right, let's bring in our A-team. Michael Blake, DNC Vice Chair and New York State Assemblyman. Mary Kissel, Wall Street Journal Editorial Board member and Fox News contributor. And Brad Blakeman, former Deputy Assistant to President George W. Bush. All three of you, the A-team, good morning and welcome. What a night it was last night. Brad, to you first.
I think it was a great night for Republicans, and I think it showed the coattails that Donald Trump has. Remember, these are special elections. I think the results would have been entirely different if they were running in a pack in a midterm. We're in August. People are checked out. More motivation has to be made at the local level in order to draw people out, and I think it was very exciting. The president could have had the luxury of doing what presidents typically do, and that's hands off. That's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump rolls up his sleeves. He does what presidents pretty much have not done heretofore, and that is to get involved in primaries.
All right, a win for Republicans. Michael, what say you?
Oh, that's just comical right now. So you had to spend money in a seat that you have held for more than 35 years, a seat where our candidate, Danny O'Connor, who is not conceded, let's be clear about that, because you have more than 3,000 ballots that have not been counted, where you've had great progress as it relates to Delaware County and Franklin County. So the notion that that's a good night is, again, pretty ridiculous. You were showing Michigan just now. The fact that there's a conversation about James, again, also ridiculous. Debbie Stabenow was up by 18 points in the initial poll in that aspect. Let's talk about how you have 4 women that are going to be leading the ballot in Michigan. Oh, by the way, this morning, Chris Collins being indicted. So the notion that Republicans are having a good day on elections and what's happening electorally is pretty surreal. That is the reason why progress right now.
You guys pretty much found neutral. My Lord.
And you're putting me right in the Look, I think it was really a mixed bag, if anything. anything, it gives Republicans cause for concern. Frankly, Ohio, people are focusing on it because it's a key swing state. This was an affluent suburb of Ohio, Columbus, and some rural areas. And it's a district that Republicans have held for a long time and that Trump won in double digits. Now, the president has made a tactical decision that he's going to get involved in these races. His supporters will say, look, he may have won this race for Balderson if indeed the race goes the Republican way. On the other side, he also may have motivated an already energized Democratic base to come out against the Republicans.
Here's what I find interesting. The Democrat ran a campaign. You go to his website, right? There's no mention of Donald Trump. All the positions he takes are pretty traditional Democratic positions, climate change and health care, etc. He doesn't mention Ocasio-Cortez, so he stays away from the far left of the party as well, and he won't support Nancy Pelosi.